Preface. Backgammon remains in precisely the condition in which it was left over 100 years ago by Edmund Hoyle, Gent. In this short account of the game are given the preliminary instructions which Hoyle and others almost invariably omit. Hoyle presumes on his readers' general knowledge of the manner of playing the various games, and begins his account of backgammon with a calculation of chances and a table of odds against throwing certain numbers on 2 dice. This, the mere gambling element of the game, is not primarily necessary for the amateur's instruction. When he knows how to play backgammon, he will soon acquire facility in making wagers on his success. It is a pleasant evidence of advancement in morals that most of the games our forefathers played for heavy stakes are now ordinarily played for love/chess, draughts, backgammon, whist, and most of the card games are better played for amusement than for money. Backgammon. Backgammon and draughts go very well together, for almost all the folding draft boards contain a backgammon board inside. As to the origin of the game, there is little to be said, except that it was known to our Saxon ancestors as a game of mingled chance and skill. Strut and Bishop Kennet derive its name from 2 Saxon words, bac, back, and gammon, a game, a back game, or one in which the player is liable to be sent back. Dr. Henry and other writers claim for it a purely Welsh origin, and say that its name comes from back, little, and cammon, a battle, the little battle. Chaucer called it tables, by which title the game seems to have been known in his time. As to the draught men and dice with which it is played, of the introduction of the first we have no certain knowledge, and with regard to the spotted cubes, their origin cannot now be traced to any one people. Representations of dice are seen in Egyptian hieroglyphs and on Etruscan tombs. It has always been a game for the higher classes and has never been vulgarized or defiled by uneducated people. Bacon, the philosopher, recommends it as a good game. Shakespeare draws morals from its chances. Spenser mentions dice in his Faerie Queene. Addison, Dryden, and other writers mention it as a gentlemanly pastime. And Dean Swift tells us that it is the only game that a clergyman can consistently play. Backgammon is played by 2 persons on a board divided into 2 sections and figured with 24 points or flèches of different colors placed alternately. Here is the board, with the men arranged for the game. Arranging the board. The very first thing is to set the board slash, which is done according to the scheme shown in the diagram, in which for easy reference the points on either side are numbered from I to 12. The player using the black men is seated at the upper side of the table, and the one with the white men at the lower. In the case supposed, it is the object of the player to bring all his men home, that is, into his own inner table. He who first succeeds in moving or bearing his men off the board wins the game. In arranging the board, 2 men are placed upon the ace point in the adversary's inner table, 5 upon the 6th point of his outer table, 12 in the diagram, 5 upon the 6th point in your own inner table, and 3 upon the sink point in your outer table, 8 in the diagram. Your adversary places his men in the tables in a precisely corresponding manner. The moves of the men are made in accordance with the numbers thrown by 2 dice, with which, in a box, each player is provided, in addition to 15 draughtmen. To further explain the motif, or the game, it is the object of the player to get all his men into his inner compartment or home, and bear or remove them from the board in accordance with the numbers indicated by the successive throws of the dice, before his adversary can accomplish the same end, after he has succeeded in removing his men into his own home. But before going farther, it will be well to explain the technical terms of the game. The terms used for the numbers on the dice are I, ace, 2, deuce, 3, trois carrot or tray, 4, quire, 5, sink, 6, 6. Doublets, 2 dice with the faces bearing the same number of pips, as 2 aces, 2 sixes, etc. Bearing your men, removing them from the table. Hit, to remove all your men before your adversary has done so. Blot, a single man upon a point. Home, your inner table. Gammon, 2 points, 1 out of the 3 constituting the game. Backgammon, the entire game won. Men, the draughts used in the game. Making points. Winning hits. Getting home. Bringing your men from your opponent's tables into your own. To enter is to place your man again on the board after he has been excluded by reason of a point being already full. Bar, The division between the boxes. How the game is played. Bar point. That next the bar. Having got thus far, let us see how the game is played. The first most advantageous throw of the dice is of aces, as it blocks the 6 point in your outer table and secures the sink point in your inner table, so that your adversary's 2 men upon your ace point cannot escape with his throwing either from 5 or 6. This throw is, therefore, often asked and given between players of unequal skill by way of odds. If doublets are thrown, or similar numbers on each die, double the number of points are reckoned. Thus, if 2 sinks be thrown, 20 points are counted. The points on the board are counted from 1 to 6 in each of the 4 compartments respectively, each player commencing from the point in the table opposite to him. 2 men can be advanced at once, 1 for each number thrown on the dice, or 1 man may be moved forward as many points as the numbers on the dice amount to, taken together. When any point is covered by 2 of an opponent's men, the player cannot put any of his upon that point. But if one only be there, which constitutes what is called a blot, that man may be removed and placed on the center ledge of the board, and the point occupied. This man must be entered on any vacant point in the home section of the tables belonging to the opponent of the player whose man has been taken up, provided the number turned up on either die corresponds with that point, and must then be brought round from the commencement, like the men on the ace points in either table. To win a hit is to remove all your men from the table before your adversary has removed his. This counts 1. To win a gammon, which counts 2, is to remove all your men before your adversary has brought all of his home, and if your men are entirely removed while your antagonist has 1 remaining in your home section of the tables, you win a backgammon, which counts 3. For the choice of the first play, each player throws a single die. He who throws the highest number wins, and may, if he choose, adopt and play the joint number of the preliminary throw. If he reject, then the first step is made by his throwing both the dice and moving any one of his men to an open point at the distance indicated by one of the dice, and then moving another man, or the same man farther on, if he think proper, to another open point indicated by the number of the second die. Boyle's hints, observations, etc. This completes his move. His adversary then follows in a similar manner, and so on alternately to the end of the game. Thus, double aces, which count as 4, W*ould entitle you, say white, to move 2 men from 8W to 7W, and 2 from 6W to 5W, which covers the bar point, 7, and also covers the sink point in your inner table. And then, should your next throw be 5 and 6, you would play the 5 from 12B to 8W, and so cover the blot before left, and you would play the 6 from 12B to your bar point. Pairs count double. Thus, 6s entitle you to move 4 men, each 6 points forward, and you may either move 4 together, say, from 12B to 7W, or 2 together, as, say, 2 from IB to your adversary's bar point, 7, and 2 from 12B to 7W, your own bar point, or singly, as, say, a single man from IB to IW, in your own inner table, presuming that your adversary had ceased to occupy it. The direction in which your men move is from the adverse inner table over the bar through the adversary's outer table. Hoyle's hints, observations, and cautions. By the directions given to play for a gammon, you are voluntarily to make some blots, the odds being in your favor that they are not hit. But should that so happen, in such case you will have 3 men in your adversary's table. You must then endeavor to secure your adversary's sink, cotter, or trua point to prevent a gammon, and must be very cautious how you suffer him to take up a 4th man. Take care not to crowd your game, that is, putting many men either upon your trua or deuce point in your own table, which is, in effect, losing those men by not having them to play. Besides, by crowding your game, you are often gammoned, as, when your adversary finds your game open by being crowded in your own table, he may then play as he thinks fit. By referring to the calculations, you may know the odds of entering a single man upon any certain number of points, and play your game accordingly. If you are obliged to leave a blot, by having recourse to the calculations for hitting it, you will find the chances for and against you. You will also find the odds for and against being hit by double dice, and consequently can choose a method of play most to your advantage. If it be necessary to make a run, in order to win a hit, and you would know who is forwardest, begin reckoning how many points you have to bring home to the 6th point in your table, the man that is at the greatest distance, and do the like by every other man abroad. When the numbers are summed up, add for those already on your own tables, supposing the men that were abroad as on your 6th point for bearing, namely, 6 for every man on the 6th, and so on respectively for each, 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1, for every man according to the points on which they are situated. Do the like to your adversary's game, and then you will know which of you is forwardest and likeliest to win the hit. Directions for bearing your men. If your adversary be greatly before you, never play a man from your cotter, trois, or deuce points, in order to bear that man from the point where you put it, because nothing but high doublets can give you any chance for the hit. Therefore, instead of playing an ace or a deuce from any of the aforesaid points, always play them from your highest point, by which means throwing 2 5s or 2 4s will, upon having eased your 6 and sink points, be of great advantage, whereas, had your 6th point remained loaded, you must perhaps be obliged to play at length those 5s and 4s. Whenever you have taken up 2 of your adversary's men, and happen to have 2, 3 or more points made in your own table, never fail spreading your men, either to take a new point in your table, or to hit the man your adversary may happen to enter. As soon as he enters one, compare his game with yours, and if you find your game equal, or better, take the man if you can, because it is 25 to 11 against his hitting you, which being so much in your favor, you ought always to run that risk, when you have already 2 of his men up, except you play for a single hit only. Never be deterred from taking up any one man of your adversary by the apprehension of being hit with double dice, because the fairest probability is 5 to 1 against him. If you should happen to have 5 points in your table, and to have taken up one of your adversary's men, and are obliged to leave a blot out of your table, rather leave it upon doublets than any other, because doublets are 35 to 1 against his hitting you, and any other chance is but 17 to 1 against him. 2 of your adversary's men in your table are better for a hit than any greater number, provided your game be the forwardest, because having 3 or more men in your table gives him more chances to hit you than if he had only 2 men. If you are to leave a blot upon entering a man on your adversary's table, and have your choice where, always choose that point which is the most disadvantageous to him. To illustrate this, suppose it is his interest to hit or take you up as soon as you enter. In that case, leave the blot upon his lowest point, that is to say, upon his deuce, rather than upon his trois, and so on, because all the men your adversary plays upon his trois or his deuce points are in a great measure out of play, these men not having it in their power to make his sink point, and consequently his game will be crowded there and open elsewhere, whereby you will be able also much to annoy him. Prevent your adversary from bearing his men to the greatest advantage when you are running to save a gammon. Suppose you should have 2 men upon his ace point, and several others abroad. Though you should lose 1 point or 2 in putting the men into your table, yet it is your interest to leave a man upon the adversary's ace point, which will prevent him bearing his men to his greatest advantage, and will also give you the chance of his making a blot, that you may hit. But if, upon calculation, you find you have a throw, or a probability of saving your gammon, never wait for a blot, because the odds are greatly against hitting it. The laws of backgammon. If you take a man or men from any point, that man or men must be played. You are not understood to have played any man till it is placed upon a point and quitted. If you play with 14 men only, there is no penalty attending it, because with a lesser number you play to a disadvantage, by not having the additional man to make up your tables. If you bear any number of men before you have entered a man taken up, and which, consequently, you were obliged to enter, such men, so born, must be entered again in your adversary's tables, as well as the man taken up. If you have mistaken your throne and played it, and your adversary have thrown, it is not in your power or his choice to alter it, unless both parties agree. The following are hoyles. General instructions. If you play 3 up at backgammon, your principal view, in the first place, is to secure your own, or your adversary's sink point, or both. When that is effected, you may play a pushing game, and endeavor to gammon your adversary. The next best point, after you have gained your sink point, is to make your bar point, thereby preventing your adversaries running out with doublet 6s. When you have proceeded thus far, prefer the making your counterpoint in your own tables, rather than the counterpoint out of them. Having gained these points, you have a fair chance to gammon your adversary, if he is very forward. For, suppose his tables are broke at home, it will be then your interest to open your bar point, and to oblige him to come out of your tables with a 6. And having your men spread, you not only may catch that man which your adversary brings out of your tables, but you will also have a probability of taking up the man left in your tables, upon supposition that he has 2 men there. If he should have a blot at home, it will then be your interest not to make up your tables, because, if he should enter upon a blot, which you are to make for the purpose, you will have a probability of getting a 3rd man, which, if accomplished, will give you at least 4 to eye of the gammon. Whereas, if you have only 2 of his men up, the chances are that you do not gammon him. If you play for a hit only, 1 or 2 men taken up by your adversary renders it surer than a greater number, provided your tables are made up. Hoyle gives the following directions for playing at setting out the 36 chances of the dice for a gammon or a single hit. 2 aces, best of first throws to be played on your sink point, and then 2 on the bar point for a gammon or for a hit. 2 sixes, second best throw, to be played, 2 on your adversary's bar point, and 2 on your bar point, for a gammon or a hit. 2 trois, 2 to be played on the sink point, and the other 2 on your trois point in your own tables, for a gammon only. 2 deuces, to be played on the counter point in your own tables, and 2 are brought over from the 5 men placed in your adversary's outer tables, for a gammon only. 2 fours, to be brought over from the 5 men placed in your adversary's outer tables, and to be put upon the sink point in your own tables, for a gammon only. 2 fives, to be brought over from the 5 men placed in your adversary's outer tables, and to be put on the trois point in your own tables, for a gammon or a hit. Size ace, you are to make your bar point, for a gammon or for a hit. Size deuce, a man to be brought from the 5 men placed in your adversary's outer tables, and to be placed on the sink point in your own tables, for a gammon or a hit. 6 and 3, a man to be brought from your adversary's ace point, as far as he will go, for a gammon or a hit. 6 and 4, a man to be brought from your adversary's ace point, as far as he will go, for a gammon or a hit. 6 and 5, a man to be carried from your adversary's ace point, as far as he can go, for a gammon or a hit. Sink and cotter, a man to be carried from your adversary's ace point, as far as he can go, for a gammon or a hit. Sink trois, to make the trois point in your table, for a gammon or a hit. Sink deuce, to play 2 men from the 5 placed in your adversary's outer tables, for a gammon or a hit. Sink ace, to bring 1 man from the 5 placed in your adversary's outer tables for the sink, and to play 1 man down on the sink point in your own tables for the ace, for a gammon only. Cotter trois, 2 men to be brought from the 5 placed in your adversary's outer tables, for a gammon or a hit. Cotter deuce, to make the cotter point in your own tables, for a gammon or a hit. Cotter ace, to play a man from the 5 placed in your adversary's outer tables for the cotter, and for the ace, to play a man down upon the sink point in your own tables, for a gammon only. Trois deuce, 2 men to be brought from the 5 placed in your adversary's tables, for a gammon only. Trois ace, to make the sink point in your own tables, for a gammon or a hit. Deuce ace, to play 1 man from the 5 placed in your adversary's tables for the deuce, and for the ace, to play a man down upon the sink point in your own tables, for a gammon only. How to play for the following chances when you play only for a hit. 2 trapeze, 2 of them are to be played on your sink point in your own tables, and with the other 2 take the cotter point in your adversary's tables. 2 deuces, 2 of them are to be played on your cotter point in your own tables, and with the other 2 take the trois point in your adversary's tables. The 2 foregoing cases are to be played in this manner, that you may avoid being shut up in your adversary's tables, and have the chance of throwing high doublets to win the hit. 2 fours, 2 of them are to take your adversary's sink point in his tables, and for the other 2, 2 men are to be brought from the 5 placed in your adversary's tables. Sink ace, play the sink from the 5 men placed in your adversary's tables, and play the ace from your adversary's ace point. Cotter ace, play the cotter from the 5 men placed in your adversary's tables, and the ace from the men on your adversary's ace point. Deuce ace, play the deuce from the 5 men placed in your adversary's tables, and the ace from your adversary's ace point. Hoyle gives the following example of a backgammon. Suppose A to have 2 men upon his 6 point in his own tables, 3 men upon his usual point in his outer table, 2 men upon the point where his 5 men are usually placed in his adversary's tables, 5 men upon his adversary's ace point, and 3 men upon his adversary's counterpoint. And suppose B to have 2 men upon his 6 point in his own tables, 3 men upon his usual point in his outer table, 2 men upon the point where his 5 men are usually placed in his adversary's tables, 5 men upon his adversary's ace point, and 3 men upon his adversary's draw point. Who has the fairest chance to win the hit? A has, because he is to play either an ace or a deuce from his adversary's ace point, in order to make both these points as occasion offers. And having the counterpoint in his adversary's tables, he may more easily bring those men away, if he finds it necessary. And he will also have a resting place by the conveniency of that point, which at all times in the game will give him an opportunity of running for the hit, or staying, if he thinks proper, whereas B cannot so readily come from the draw point in his adversary's tables. A case of curiosity. Let us suppose A and B place their men in the following manner for a hit. Suppose A to have 3 men upon his 6 point in his own tables, 3 men upon the usual point in his outer table, and 9 men upon his adversary's ace, deuce, and draw points, 3 men to be placed upon each point. And suppose B's men to be placed in his own and in his adversary's tables, in the same order and manner. The result is that the best player ought to win the hit, and the dice are to be thrown for, the situation being perfectly equal in A's and B's game. If A throws first, let him endeavor to gain his adversary's sink point. When that is effected, let him lay as many blots as possible to tempt B to hit him, for every time that B hits them will be in A's favor, because it puts B backward, and let it take up none of B's men for the same reason. Critical case for a backgammon. Let US suppose A plays the 4 game, and that all his men are placed in the usual manner. For B's game, let us suppose that 14 of his men are placed upon his adversary's ace point, and I man upon his adversary's deuce point, and that B is to throw. Which game is likeliest to win the hit? A's is the best by 21/or to 20 against, because if B misses an ace to take his adversary's deuce point, which is 25-2 against him, A is, in that case, to take up B's men in his tables, either singly or to make points. And if B secures either A's deuce or draw point, in that case A is to lay as many men down as possible in order to be hit, that thereby he may get a backgammon. When you are pretty well versed in the game of backgammon, by practicing this backgammon you will become a greater proficient in the game than by any other method, because it clearly demonstrates the whole power of the backgammon. Calculation of chances. In playing backgammon, it is of course necessary that the amateur should know how many points he ought to throw upon the 2 dice, 1% out with the other. The following demonstration of the chances is given by Hoyle, and adopted by all succeeding writers on the game, simply because the matter, being one of fact, cannot be altered or improved. On the 2 dice, there are 36 chances. In these 36 chances there are the follow. ING points, namely, points. 2 aces 4. 2 deuces 8, 2 trua 12, 2 fours L6, 2 fives 20, 2 sixes 25, 6 and 5 twice 22, 6 and 4 twice 20, 6 and 3 twice 18, 6 and 2 twice 16, 6 and I twice 14, 5 and 4 twice 18, 5 and 3 twice 16, 5 and 2 twice 14, 5 and J twice 12, 4 and 3 twice 14, 4 and 2 twice 12, 4 and I twice low, 3 and 2 twice low, 3 and 1 twice 8, 2 and 1 twice 6, divided by 36. Calculation of chances. Thus we see that 294 divided by 36 gives 8, and a little more as the average throw with 2 dice. The chances upon 2 dice are 2 sixes, 2 fives, 2 fours, 2 trua, 2 deuces, 2 aces, 6 and 5 twice 2, 6 and 4 twice 2, 6 and 3 twice 2, 6 and 2 twice 2, 6 and I twice 2, 5 and 4 twice 2, 5 and 3 twice 2, 5 and 2 twice 2, 5 and I twice 2, 4 and 3 twice 2, 4 and 2 twice 2, 4 and I twice 2. 3 and 2 twice 2. 3 and I twice 2. 2 and I twice 2. To find out by this table what are the odds of being hit upon a certain or flat die, look in the table where thus marked. 2 aces I. 6 and I twice 2. 5 and I twice 2. 4 and I twice 2. 3 and I twice 2. 2 and I twice 2. Total 2. Which deducted from 36 the remainder is 25. By this it appears that it is 25 to 11 against hitting an ace upon a certain or flat die. The like method may be taken with any other flat die, as with the ace. What are the odds of entering a man upon 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 points? 4. Against. To enter it upon I point is about 4 to 9 tt 44 2, 5 to 4. 3. 3 to I. T. 4. C. 8 to X. 5. I. 35 to I. The odds against hitting with double dice are 4. Against. To hit. Upon 7. Is. About. 5. To I. 8. 5. To I. C. 9. 6. To I. C. 10. 2. To I. I C. 2. 17. To I. 12. 36. To I. To further explain how to make use of the table of I chances, when at a loss to find the odds of being hit upon a certain or flat die, another example is added. By the following we find the odds of being hit upon a 6. Points. 2 sixes I. 2 true I. 2 deuces I. 6 and 5 twice 2. 6 and 4 twice 2. 6 and 3 twice 2. 6 and 2 twice 2. 6 and I twice 2. 5 and I twice 2. 4 and 2 twice 2. Deduct this 17 from 36, the number of chances upon 2 dice, and we have 19. From this table, then, we find that it is 19 to 17 against being hit upon a 6. The odds of 2 love is about 5 to 2, 2 to I, 2 to I. I love 3 to 2. Here, then, we have the game of backgammon as played in the politest circles. I trust one have made the method of playing it plain to the comprehension of the reader.